Welcome back. Today's topic is incandescent lamps and fluorescent lamps. But before going for that, this video lecture is all about the artificial sources of light. So in this lecture and in the next video lecture, we will see what are the different types of artificial sources of light which we'll be using in our day-to-day life. In the last lecture, we have seen the need for earthing, why we should go for electrical earthing, and what do you mean by neutral earthing and equipment earthing, and how it is being achieved. There are different methods, the plate earthing, pipe earthing, rod earthing. So all these things we have seen in the last lecture, and ultimately we have found that earthing is done exclusively to provide protection for the user personnel and also for the equipment. And in today's class, we will see the types of lighting, artificial lighting. So I'll start, I hope that by the end of this lecture, you will be able to list the different types of light sources, both natural and artificial. And also, I hope that you will be able to describe the working of incandescent and fluorescent lamp, along with their advantages and limitations. So let me start with the sources of light, what actually lighting is, and how what are the different sources of lamps. And next we move on to the lamps, the incandescent lamps and the fluorescent lamps. So coming to the starting, we'll start with what actually is meant by lights. I know that you are at engineering level, but let me give you a small glimpse. Light is just like anything else, just it is an electromagnetic radiation. And any radiation at a particular frequency, normally within this bands, it is visible to the human eye. And everything we see around us is just because of the lights. Light is just like any other form. You do have heat energy, you do have sound energy, you do have mechanical energy, you do have electrical energy. Just like that, light is also a form of energy, and it is produced from a source. In physics, the sources which produce light, those are called as light sources. Now, there are two different light sources are classified into two different types. One is a natural sources, the other one is artificial sources. One which are naturally made in the nature, the other one is done by human being. So let's start with the natural light sources. You know that universe is filled with objects which do emit lights. When I ask you about the natural light source, you will immediately say the first and foremost thing is the sun, isn't it? Sun is our biggest source of lights. It is a major source of light for the earth. It is a massive ball of fire at the center at which nuclear fusion will be happening. Not nuclear fission, not like your atom. It is based upon the hydrogen. So at the center, nuclear fusion will be happening all the time, which develops massive energy. And this energy comes out in the form of heat and light. And the light from the sun, it travels to very farther distances. See, we are at some thousands, billions, light years. Light year is the highest distance measurement, right? So we are very far from the sun. But even though we are very far away, we are able to experience the lights from the sun. See how much energy is being generated there. That energy, it is being caught here in the form of heat and also lights. Okay. And this light energy from the sun, it is one of the most important factors why life is sustainable on the earth. Okay. Now, apart from the sun, all the other stars which you see, you might have studied in your science, geology, every other star produces light too. But it may be a small amount or no amount which we are able to see because it may reach the earth or may not reach the earth because of the distance of the star from the earth. Okay. And the next source. So when it comes back to you other than the stars, after the sun, the other stars. So what are the natural light sources? One thing which we find is the moon. Moon is also a source of light for the earth. So the next source, which I call it as a moon, it provides light as well, but it cannot produce light on its own. It's just the light which is reflected from the sun. It is being obtained from the moon. And apart from that, you can see that there are some living organisms on the earth which do produce light. You can see that there are some worms, some flies, which basically they will produce light. And you can see some water animals also, just like your jellyfish, etc. There are some deep sea creatures also. If you might have seen in some YouTube videos that in movies also, that whenever you see a plain water, sometimes you will be seeing some organisms, some water creatures giving some light from the lower surface of the water. So we call it as bioluminescence. It is an effect of certain chemical reactions within the organism. You take the fireflies, you take the jellyfish, you take the glowworms, all because of some sort of chemical reactions, and then they will just give us some lights. And apart from that, there are certain actions which do happen on the earth which provide light. You take volcanic eruptions. During volcanic eruptions, large amount of heat and light are developed. And also, one more thing which basically emits light is lightning. Particularly during a rainy day or sometimes you will be seeing this thunders, lightnings, etc. So this lightning is also a source of lights. So all this so far which I have discussed, the sun, the stars, the moon, living organisms, lighting, volcanic eruptions, all these are natural light sources. Now we move on to the artificial sources. So apart from these natural sources now, light can be produced artificially too. There are different light sources which are employed to produce artificial lights. Broadly, they are classified into three things. The first and foremost thing is an incandescent lamp, which is the foremost lamp which was developed, incandescent lamp or incandescent sources. In incandescent sources, the principle is very simple. Certain objects are heated to very high temperature. When certain objects are heated to very high temperature, they begin to emit lights. So in this process, both IR light, infrared light, and also visible light are being emitted. So we can have this visible light so that we can see it. Best example is an incandescent lamp, and also the candle is also a best example of incandescent source because it burns. In this process of burning, it will emit lights. It is an incandescent source. And next is a fluorescent source where light is produced by accelerating charges on a luminescent material. So which means that some charges are forced such that they hit on a luminescent surface. So when they hit the surface, then you will see the brightness or some sort of luminescence. So the simple thing where you can see is nothing but your tube lights, your fluorescent tube light, your electric bulbs, fluorescent bulbs. All these come under luminescent sources. You will be having some charges, they are forced to hit a surface, luminous surface or a phosphorus surface. Then you will be experiencing some lights. The next thing is gas discharge sources, where electricity is passed through certain gases at very low pressure. This will produce lights. One such example is neon lamp, sodium vapor lamp. All these things, when discharge passes through the vapor, then automatically you can experience a lights. So these are the artificial classification of artificial light sources. And in the next lecture, we will discuss more about incandescent lamp. Okay.